My name is Joy D. Fanning, an astronaut of life, and I help people go inward to explore. This video is part of a series called Meditation Stories, where you might hear me share some of my own stories, but the main part is to share other people's experiences because there are so many ways to meditate and so many things that come to us when we meditate. So, without further ado, here's the video. Hi,
Awesome.
Rebecca.
Hi, how are you? Thank you
I'm
for
great. I'm so glad to have you here. Yes.
Yay, awesome.
Rebecca, can you tell my listeners what a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Sure. My name is Rebecca. You can find me on YouTube under Vibe Mentor. My goal in life is to help people raise their vibration so they can live their best life. And essentially, that was driven out of my dark night of the soul and my awakening and how difficult that was and how many moments I found myself saying, why didn't they teach me this in school? And that's, so much of depression and anxiety that we experience today is growing every day and on the rise. And there are so many beautiful souls out there who are struggling because I get the goosebumps when I talk about this. It's just confirmation every time. But that depression and then that anxiety comes from a place of not living our purpose, not going with the flow of the divine and allowing God, universe, creator to do the heavy lifting for us. And that life can be beautiful, it can be fun, can be easy in the sense that when we are doing something we love and that our soul's designed for, then it all just flows out of us and we don't have to carry boulders on our backs anymore. So that is why I do what I do.
I love it. I love it. Yes. Because I've struggled with anxiety myself, like probably from like age 20 on. So that I'm 37. So that's been a while. Yeah. So for me, I eventually learned meditation as a positive coping mechanism for anxiety. How did meditation get started in your life?
Yeah, it to your point started about the same time of the awakening, where it was the depression and the anxiety that drove me to that. I'm a very highly sensitive person, very empathic, and I had no idea, one, that I had this track of negative thoughts running in my brain all the time. And we are all creators, and we're all constantly creating. So that was causing me to recreate all the things I was afraid of, right? And so then the world became a scary place, and it was very hard to hold a full-time corporate job and be a single mom, and yet I did it. I pushed through and I bootstrapped it every day. And I'm sure, as you know, with someone for anxiety, it's kind of like having your finger in a light socket where you just feel like fried all the time, right? And there is no rest for the nervous system. And so, as I began to learn about depression and start to manage the thoughts, I also started to learn about the nervous system and how deeply connected that is to our depression and our anxiety, and that need to calm and to relax and to breathe and to surrender. And for someone like us, that never happens. It's just this constant vigilance. Essentially, you're in perpetual flight or flight your entire life. And so that first moment of oh, just to just be okay, in your home in a safe place for 5 minutes, it was life changing. And so yeah, once once I found it, there was no going back. So
No, same for me. Yeah, like once I took like a little class where they taught you like all these different ways to meditate, and I tried them all, but for me at that time guided meditations were like my thing because it would transport me and I would just feel, yeah, that just so much calmer afterwards. And no, it was so much better than the meds I was on, everything, right? Like, and I was like, I would much rather do this than just take a pill and become a zombie and go through the motions.
yeah, how was it for you being on the medication?
Oh well, it took away all my emotions. Which I don't know if it was supposed to do that or not. I want to say my doctor said it wasn't, but for me it did because I'm the kind of person that will cry in a movie or like just have emotional responses. I'm a highly sensitive person too. So when I was on that medication, I mean, you could put the puppy dog commercial, the children in Africa, and I wouldn't cry. I wouldn't have any reaction. And I was just, I remember one day being like, wait a minute, this doesn't feel like me. This isn't the me I want. Like, I like that part of me. I don't want that gone. I just want the anxiety gone. But
Right.
it took me about a year to figure out I don't want to be on this anymore, you know?
Yeah, that was my experience too, is just feeling like disconnected. And really at the end
Yeah.
of the day, the thing I want most is the connection. So yeah. Yeah, and our sensitivity ends up being a superpower, right?
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
the moments in my childhood where I was told that I was too bubbly, too happy, too naive, too everything, right? Those parts of me were parts that were rejected, right? And so we started to say that's a liability. I'm not going to be that person. I'm going to be strong and right? We're going to ignore those parts of us. And we, whether it's medication or self medicating or shopping or all these addictions that come about as coping mechanisms, we end up numbing out either intentionally or unintentionally because we don't know how to work with it and we don't know how to use it. And I'm sure you could probably echo the same sentiment that when you step into your life purpose, all of the sudden you're like, oh, this is a massive asset. Like all of me is needed for this, right? And I like to say we're perfectly made imperfect for our purpose, right? Like all of our imperfections serve a purpose. And when you step into your life purpose and you step into meditation and that full surrender and connection, you start to see that wow, all of me is okay and that I am whole, and there's just a joy and a peace that comes with that. And I certainly would attribute the majority of the early awakenings to that meditation and seeing the evidence of that. So, what was your
That,
first experience with meditation?
well, the ones I can remember the most, I lived in Portland, Oregon at the time. And at that time, I was an atheist. And I just kind of, I viewed it more to like help me, yeah, with anxiety and more like psychological, right? It wasn't too spiritual. I wasn't viewing it as a spiritual thing. I had a beautiful spiritual friend named Benet who didn't really preach at me or anything, but just being her made me be like, I wonder what's going on over there with her because I really like her energy and I want to know. And she's into astrology and all this stuff. And she gave me some rabbit holes to go down. So I started to do that. And I did this. The first like major experience was a guided meditation to meet my higher self. And I remember I was laying on my bed because I that was the only way I could meditate at the time.
Yeah.
Um, but I was laying on my bed and I was doing this meditation. And most of the time I would do these meditations and I'd either fall asleep or I would just go on a journey and be calm afterwards, right? This time was more, I would call it now like a vision. I was transported to like somewhere else. And I was in this room. I could still hear the guided, the narrator, right? And she's like, your higher self is going to walk in and they're going to take a seat next, a seat across from you. So I was like, okay. The way she talked, I assumed it would look like me, just like my twin walking in. But that's not what happened at all. I saw this ginormous light body. It didn't have any features. It was just like this outline of like a humanoid, but it was pure light. And I'm almost 6 feet tall. It was like 10 or 12 feet tall. It was really large. And of course, this is all in meditation. So my eyes are closed and I'm in this other place. And I remember in the meditation, I immediately just fell to the floor and started crying, uncontrollable crying, and not due to, it was a mix of emotions because my higher self, when I appeared, it just radiated unconditional love. And I had never experienced it in that way. And it literally felt like an energy wave hitting me and just made me like collapse. And I could sense that this was me, that I was this thing I was seeing. And it just like, it just overwhelmed me, right? And I just started crying and releasing probably blocks and, everything to connect. And I'm sure I talked to it. I don't really remember the conversation. I remember at the end of the meditation, she says, your higher self is going to step into your body and you'll become one. So my higher self did that. And like for the next 3 days or so, which I was brand new to feeling energy and all of this, right? So I'm like, it was so new. I could sense that that light body was in me. At the top of my head came to like its belly button, like a little above its belly, like where its heart is. Like, and it was like I was in this sumo, like I was in one of those suits, like a mascot or something with it around me, and I could sense it. And I was just like, whoa, this must be the kind of stuff Bené's talking about and is into. And this is what it all is. Okay. So then I, of course, went to her and was just like, okay, tell me more, tell me more. This crazy thing just happened and I don't even know what it means. But like, I feel different. You know what I mean? Like, it really blew my mind and changed the way I thought about meditation. And because everything, it was like kind of the catalyst for my shifting on my journey for sure.
Wow, what a beautiful story. What a blessing that you had something so visceral and so tangible to kind of say, "Well, yep. we're gonna look more into this." That's amazing. Wow. What a beautiful story. I wish I could say I had something similar. I think mine was more of a 10-minute here, 10-minute there, just relaxing the nervous system. What was interesting is I did actually have a meditation where something negative tried to come in. And so that was a big awakening for me too, that it's not just the positive, that there are other things. And so discernment became part of my path very, very early. So it's amazing to be so open like that we can connect. I too really used guided meditations early on. I found that just sitting in stillness, or follow your breath, that one was really hard for me. That especially with an overactive anxious mind, that it was too difficult to quiet my mind. And I, type A personality, a lot of pushing at the time. I just felt like I wasn't doing it right and I was failing. And so I wanted to quit. And that's where guided meditations actually allowed me to feel like I was succeeding at the thing I was trying to do. And it helped kind of that talk down, to talk the nervous system down, to get to a place where now I prefer no guided meditation, where it's an engagement between me and the divine, and I get to just sit and listen. But it was a journey, that I couldn't do more than 5 or 10 minutes, and then now if it's any less than 45, I'm like wishing I had more, So I'm curious, do you have suggestions for people who struggle with that overactive mind, or even sometimes I think the analytical type, which I was and am still, I still have to kind of calm the mind, can kind of get in the way and say, oh, you're just imagining that, or oh, that's not real, or right, that chatter in the brain. So, any suggestions for people who struggle with that?
Well, I'm like you. I had to start off with kind of short meditations, and I love how you explained guided meditations and how they made you feel like you were doing it right, because that's same for me for sure. And let's see. So yeah, I listen to just music now. I don't really, for my own self, I don't really use guided. I'll re-listen to the ones I make. Any tip I would have, for me, I did struggle with thinking things were my imagination, because I have a beautiful imagination and it's really easy for me to imagine things. And it's been that way my whole life. So, and this was a learning process for me. One thing I would do, I would call it like like you're pinching yourself, but I just do it when I see things. So like if I have entity come up, or an angel, or something that, not necessarily an angel because their energy is so intense. You, there's no way I could make that up. But like if I'm seeing something and I that distrust in my what I'm seeing is popping up, and that is this my imagination or not? Like if it's a spirit animal or something, I will try to, I mean, it's kind of hard to explain, but I will try to like control it. Not like in an evil way, but if it's my imagination, it should be like a lucid dream where whatever I say it should do or say, it should do or say, right? And if it works, if it's like, hey, Joy, blah, 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 then I'm like, okay, that was me. You're just my imagination. Go away. Like that's a thought. That's a thought that looks similar to what I'm looking for, but that's not what I'm looking for. And I'll keep going up. This happened once in a reading, actually. I'm remembering. I was connecting with someone's higher self and their guides, and a Michael came forward. But I was like, this doesn't feel like that angel energy that a Michael angel should have, right? So I did that kind of spiritual astral pinch, kind of where I'm like, and I could control what he said, and I was like, well, then you're not you're not what I'm looking for. I went up further, and then the real archangel Michael showed up, and there was no doubt whatsoever that that's who was like a guide for this person. So that I'm learning now that's not necessarily the nicest test because like who wants to be pinched? So I've changed it. It's morphed. So now like I don't get quite as scared when that fear comes up, right? So now I'm just like, are you my imagination? And then I wait for them to say something, and now they'll either be like, no, Joy, I'm not your imagination. Like, but thank you for asking and clarifying. Can we get to business now? This is what I want to say.
Please don't pinch me.
Right? Yeah. So it took me a while to learn. I don't think they like got mad at me for pinching, because sometimes I would try to pinch and it really was the real thing. And then I'd be like, oh, okay, cool. So what do you want to say to me? But it took me a while to build that discernment and learn, and just even be brave enough to try to pinch them, right? Like
Yeah.
instead of just holding that in and keeping that internal fight, like, because that's what I did at first. I would just say that's my imagination, until I had that meeting with my higher self, and then I was like, well, that was something totally different. I don't know what that was, but that was not my imagination, because I was expecting myself to walk in, right? So yeah, sorry, that was a long tip.
No, no, I think that's extremely helpful. I mean, how better to learn than through a story, right? Like, and I would probably echo the sentiment, like it's probably experience, right? The more we do it, the more we start to see different things. You start to say, oh, okay, I never could have created that. Or for me, I find that things just come instead of like I can sense like I've created it versus it came to me, and there's like a level of just knowingness that happens through that experience, and not getting too hung up on the thought loop that will happen. Did I create this? Oh, I created this. Oh, I'm not doing that right. Like, and then you're just spiraling down and you've become completely distracted. I love that you mentioned going up, right? Because there are these levels. So if you can imagine yourself when you're going into meditation, yes, you ground, right? Bring Mother Earth up through you, but then take your awareness up above the earth, above the universe, into those higher levels, and the laws of the universe, the pink mist, the angelic realm, all of those places literally. And it's probably, I don't know if it is a physical distance, right? I don't know if it is up, but in your awareness, as you carry your mind and your focus, it is an up. And the farther up you go, the closer to source you get. And you can keep going up to a point where you feel as if you're in that energetic realm, or the realm of the divine, if you're blessed. So,
Yeah, no, that's where this astronaut theme comes from. Like
love
you're
it.
lifting off, right? Like in a rocket. And then once you're up and you're out there, that's for me when I explore. And it's like, well, I'm here to learn. Who wants to teach me? What lessons we got? what do I need to work on? Here we go,
Yeah.
guys. What's going on? And something always pops up. Like I would say 99% of the time now when I meditate, something is happening. I'm either seeing something, I'm experiencing something, or yeah, it's just which before that wasn't the case at all. Like I said, I'd fall asleep because I couldn't even do it in a chair yet, or I would end up daydreaming and going off on La La Land, and then I'd be like, oh no, I was supposed to listen to them, but
Sorry.
yeah, like, oh, I took some self care time at least, right?
Yeah, I didn't mean to be rude. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. So how long do you meditate?
Well, I my meditation now is, yeah, like you, it's kind of long. I take anywhere from 10 to 20 minutes, whatever I'm feeling like, to just, I literally just pace my office and I just think and I let just the ideas go. And it helps me get into that observer mode. So when I'm ready, I might do a mantra at this time or I'll listen to special music. Sometimes I'll dance, whatever I need to do to kind of like, I call it oh, I have such a cool term. It was like recess for your brain or recess for your thoughts. Where
Oh,
I'm like, okay guys, go crazy now because in 20 minutes you're going away. And I
yeah.
know I don't want to pay attention to you. So I get a lot of ideas in this time, and it also kind of just lets my brain know that after this time we're going to do what I call like the deep meditation. So for that, I'll put these puppies on. I might have some music, and then I just, yeah, like sit there. At first, to get to the higher realms, I had to really work on each chakra first and kind of work my way up and
Mm,
get rid of the blocks that I found in each of them. And then I would travel, right?
awesome.
Now I imagine like a beam of light. It just is like a super back, and actually I watch it goes down, but it sucks all the blocks and everything out, and then I stay in that energy for a few minutes, and then I spend maybe 10 to 15 seconds on each chakra, and I'm up. If they had, I might get messages in the chakras, but the intent is always to just work my way up and then go. That's when I set my intention, like, okay, I want to meet my higher self right now, or I want to talk to source, or I want to see my starseed family, whatever it is. That's, I set the intention then, and I call it in, and then I just kind of wait for them to, it feels like an elevator or a rocket, just kind of wait for myself to get to wherever level or energy they're at, right?
Awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's fun. It's like playing.
It is. It
I
is
know.
like
I love your suggestion to get the thoughts out too, because sometimes if I can't quite get my mind to calm down, I'll stop and I'll journal. And I just realize that's probably the same thing. Like let the thoughts do what they need to do. Make a list, right? The to-do list will often bother me, so sometimes making the to-do list beforehand helps. So that's a really helpful tip. Yeah, absolutely. For people who need, who struggle with that overactive mind, have you ever found, for me, there came a point, I'm not quite sure what to call it because I don't have any technical terms. I'm sure there's a portion in the brain, but it literally is almost like I found a switch, right? It's like a turning off a light switch where I can say, that's it, right? And there are no thoughts. And it's like shutting down the thinking mind. And so I'm positive from my physical perspective, there is a mechanism in our brain where we can turn that off. And so I'm curious, are you able to also kind of get to that level?
yeah, for me it does kind of feel like a switch. I feel like it's when I close my eyes, and I'm assuming other people can feel this, but like I can feel where my eyeballs go back,
Yeah.
because I
Yeah.
guess that's what they do. And when I feel that, it changes. I usually feel a wave of my body getting heavier and relaxed, and it's like a releasing of my thoughts where I can just my consciousness can just go up because I've literally trained myself to do that. So I want to put that in there because like, yeah, it wasn't I'm going to just do this and then it happens. No, it
Correct.
developed over time and obviously repetition and practice. And now it's I don't even have to think about it now. And it's the same thing when I go to sleep. But I just let myself go to dreamland and versus meditation land, I guess.
Yeah.
Or
Well,
maybe they're the same place, right? So,
who knows?
right, yeah.
I look forward to the day we do know, right? No, I think that's a really good point, is it kind of feels like a rollover. Yeah. That's interesting that you put it that way, and I bet you anything I would guess, or if I had to put money on it, I bet you it's just the switching of the brain state, right, into the alpha wave, or whatever different states we're rolling into. That's awesome. What else? I love your soul readings. My goodness. I Can you tell us a little bit more, because we're kind of talking about the meditation, how you go about doing that for people? I mean, I just want to throw out there that your prices are so awesome and reasonable that if anybody's interested, that you definitely should reach out, because this is amazing. So tell us more about it.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, it actually came to me via meditation and my guide. So I knew I was a teacher. I taught ESL English, and my job ended. It was with China, and they ended foreign teachers. So I really felt like I just needed to take a step of faith, even though I would have didn't know what direction I was going in. And I did. And as I would meditate, I literally did a soul reading for myself, right? And my guides were like, why don't you try this for other people? And I was just like, oh, but that's like, for like other people, like that's what other people do. I don't know. I don't know about that. So I probably sat with that for like a week. And then I was like, okay, what can it hurt? Worst they say is no, that doesn't make any sense. What are you doing? Like I've already played it out in my mind basically. So I know, like, I got nothing to lose. So they were like, if you do this, Joy, it's going to prove it to yourself. Okay. Like, that's why we're asking you to do this. And I was like, okay. Cause at that time I didn't really feel like I was a psychic, or I was still unsure about a lot of things. So I did some readings for some friends, and it blew me away, which was what my guide's intention was. Because like first girl I did, I saw a panda with her reading, and the color green. I didn't know it. The panda gave me a message for her. And then we're on a video chat like this, and I was like, well, I saw the color green, and she's like, that's my favorite color. I was like, oh, that's awesome. Okay. And then I was like, and then a panda came forward, and she's like, oh my God, I love pandas. They're my favorite animal ever. And she like had a stuffed panda and everything. And I was just like, are you kidding me? And I didn't know I could do it, right? And so it every time I would see something or experience something, and each time I would do it, my guides would be like, why don't you add on this part? Like, tune into what music they would need to hear versus what you need to hear. And so the first time I did that, I used singing bowls music, which is, I'm more binaural beats person. And that girl was like, oh my gosh, I only meditate to singing bowls. And I was just like, okay, I think I get it now. I think I get a lesson learned. You were right. I took the leap of faith. You said it would happen, and it happened. So, okay. And then they're like, this is what you should be doing. And I was like, okay, well, then I guess I'll do it. And so that's kind of how it developed. But for me, it was totally a journey, because when I started, yeah, I had that fear, like, how can I do this for other people? I still think I could be imagining things. But that, I think to me, it raised the importance of, even if you're giving a reading for another psychic, just having those things confirmed in each other, because I know what my readings help confirm what I see, and the messages are confirming for other people. I've been told that time and again. And then for me, like I just told you, it confirmed my gift for myself. And I'm like, it took my awareness of that need on another level, because I've paid for tarot readings and stuff before, but I probably would not be the person that would buy a soul reading. I'd be like, I'm going to do it myself or figure it out myself. But that's like my personality, right? But if the price was right and I was in the right mood, I might pay for it and then get that confirmation, because I think that really solidifies things for people, because I'll show them what I've seen, or I'll tell them, and or they'll read it and they're like, well, the dragon came to me in meditation too, and I didn't know what he wanted to say. I couldn't hear his words. You heard what he said. Okay. And it's just so beautiful to me. I just love it. I feel very blessed that my guide showed me how to do this and kind of unlocked it for me, because like I said, now that meditation where I do my chakras and I go up, that's all I do for a soul reading. I just connect with their energy versus my guides or whatever, right? So yeah, that's I guess about that.
That's so beautiful. And I love that you're kind of even a living example of what it's like to follow your life path, right? Your life purpose, that you were let go, probably uncertain about finances and career and where to go. And that can be such a beautiful moment. It's such a gift because so many people struggle with, well, I don't want to quit my job or I don't want to step out, right? That fear. But when you're gifted that opportunity, then the divine can step in and just in finding your life purpose is not going to be a roadmap. Here it is, here's where you're going, and this is what it's going to look like, right? It's one step, right? That one suggestion of maybe you should try this, Joy, right? And they're just going to sit back and wait and see, are you going to listen? And what happens when you listen, right? And how beautiful and how amazing it is. And I spoke to you a couple months ago, and even from then to now, you're just like glowing and glistening, and you just look so happy. And you can see, right? This is life force moving through you, right? Because you're fully in the flow of where you should be, and that's such a beautiful example for everyone else what is possible. Because yes, you are special and you have an amazing gift, but we all do, right? And it is available to all of us, and that's what your meditations can help people tap into. So I thank you for sharing.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like everybody can do this. It may not even be through meditation, right? There's so many ways to connect. And that's kind of what I want my course to help people explore, is to find out what works for them, because I've tried other people's methods in the past and it didn't work for me. And that made me feel like something was wrong with me. But it's like, oh, doesn't Einstein have that quote like about the fish in the tree or something? Like if you
Tell a
ask,
fish he has to climb a tree, then he'll think he's broken. Yep.
yeah.
Yep.
And it's like, yeah, it's maybe that was my tree, right? Like I found my water, and I want other people to find their water so they can swim, because when I no, it's for everybody. It's not just me. Like for sure, totally.
Yeah, we're just way showers, that's all. One step ahead. Yes, we're all critical pieces of the puzzle. We're all capable of connection to the divine. We all have a purpose and we're all needed. So awesome.
Yeah. And I think I liked what you said before about like how, yeah, I had to take that step of faith, right? And I've had to do that several times in my life. Each time kind of takes it another level, because I don't live in my home country. That was a whole other story, a whole other level, right? But once you do it the first time and you see how source is there for you, and it just kind of it gets easier. That first time's probably the hardest, but once you do it, you'll see the opportunities arise and be like, yeah, I could have been really sad that I lost my job. I could have tried to search and search for another teaching job, right? But I was like, well, I've been in this spot before. I know what we're doing here. Okay.
Right.
I'm ready now. I've done this enough times. I know it's time to take that leap of faith. But it just takes that first step, that first time, and it just snowballs. It gets easier and easier. And what you be asked to change or do gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And
And
it
more
makes me
enjoyable.
exactly and more enjoyable, because it
Yeah.
doesn't feel like work, does it?
No.
No.
No, no, and I think some people look at me like you're just trying to sell me something when I'm like, you can be so happy, you can have so much fun. Like, this is so amazing, you guys come over to the other side of the pond, and they're like, what is wrong with that girl? It's real. I'm telling you, it's real. And I'm so glad that you brought up that it gets easier because it is the initial hump, right? Like it's the disbelief that our it's lunchtime, everybody's ready. It's the disbelief, right? It's the fear that this won't work for me. And that comes up so often. And that's one of the first things I say in all of my trainings is catch that voice because he's lying to you. This will work for you. How can I make this work for me? Right? Like the fear that you don't have a purpose, the fear that if you don't struggle or you're not working hard or you're not trying, you're not bootstrapping it, right? If you're not carrying the whole load on your own, right? There are no brownie points for doing it alone. We're not designed for that. And so it's the fear of doing it that will keep you from it, but and it is also the fear of what if I don't get the guidance, what if I can't pay my rent, what if I can't buy groceries or whatever it is that will keep you from, like, literally fear will create time and space between where you are and where you're trying to go. But in that moment when you surrender and you say, okay, I trust you. Let's just test it, right? The brain needs that one piece of evidence to say, I've seen it work before, right? And to your point, it then gets easier and easier and easier. It flows without effort. And I always like to remind people the birds don't struggle to figure out where they're going to get their food. The trees don't struggle to figure out where they're going to get their water. And you are more important than that. And so you will always, always, always be cared for and guided as soon as you're ready to put the fear down. So
I love that. Rebecca, that was awesome. Can you now I've done, I want to say like a week thing of yours, right? But you offer so many things. Can you tell me a little bit more about what you offer and like
sure.
where people can find it and stuff?
Yeah, I'm regularly doing free trainings on Facebook, usually every 4 to 6 weeks. It just depends on Christmas or what, whatever's going on. So if you are open to Facebook, you can find me there. Otherwise, my YouTube channel, I'm constantly just offering free value because I really believe in accessibility and, helping people as much as we can for all levels. I do also offer a more intensive course where it's one-on-one weekly Q&A calls, one-on-one sessions. We have a Facebook group once you're in that course, and in that support group, there's direct access to me for a full year. So lots of different options to try to make it work for everyone. And I think it's just really important that people know that you're not alone. You're not crazy. Everybody's going through this. We all feel it. We're all struggling with it. I mean, it's like the great resignation right now. People are the great awakening. People are waking up, and it's so nice to find a safe place. And just by nature, I'm a nurturer, right? I'm a mom, not just physically of my kids, but spiritually. And so I love to hold space for people. And I like too that you said that what works for someone else might not work for you. And that's one of my core philosophies is no one can tell you what's right for you. No one knows your path other than you. And so it's not my job to tell you this is your life purpose, but rather to be your cheerleader and to be your mom and to give you a hug and to hold that safe place for you so that I can help guide you and say, I went through that. Here's how you get through it, right? And distill that decades into days and kind of catapult, if you will, people onto their path. So thank you for asking. I appreciate that.
Well, yeah, because like I said, I've done one of those free ones you've done on Facebook, and it was so helpful for me. And you had meditations and like lessons and everything. It was awesome. So, like, I want everybody to know because, like, even if you think you're doing it all right, it doesn't hurt to have that support, right? And to just build community and be there with other people. And you never know who you're going to meet and or what's going to happen, especially, yeah, no, I loved it. Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you for sharing.
Absolutely. Yeah, I always use the example of a puzzle, right? Like we are pieces of
Mm.
a puzzle and we need each other and we're not meant to do this alone. We're supposed to be a collective family and to help each other and support each other. And people kind of get on themselves about, I have this weakness or I failed at this other thing. And I like to view our faults as opportunities, right? It's the hole in your puzzle piece where someone else comes in and you're not meant to do it all. You're not supposed to be perfect. You have your core set of strengths and someone else is going to come in and marry theirs with yours and we're all better together. So absolutely community and connection is very high priority. So
Well, I'm gonna have all your links at the bottom of my video for everybody so they can check it out, okay?
Very good. And we'll do
Yeah.
the same for yours as well. Yay. Astronautoflife.com. Your sign is very helpful. I will say vibementor.com or Vibe Mentor on YouTube, and we'll link everything else. So thank you so much, Joy, for your time. I loved chatting with you and connecting. So let's keep in touch.
Same, same, totally, yes.